All right, so welcome aboard, everybody. My name is Doobyis. This is a spin off from my mix show. It's called Fly in Formation. I've been talking to artists across the country, trying to give just kind of spotlight to different local scenes and different artists on those local scenes who deserve the attention. I think that our national hip hop scene could be a lot more connected than it really is. I think there's a lot of artists from one city who don't know artists from another city, and with fans, it's even more so that people might know a handful of artists from their own city, but haven't really tapped into kind of the national crowd. So, in an effort to kind of just spread some awareness about how much dope music comes out across the country, I've been reaching out, talking to people in this series called Fly in Formation. If you don't know about the Mix Show, it's called After the Smoke is Clear. I play independent hip hop every week. You can find the archives for it, mixcloud.com/Doobyis. But today, without further ado, let me just get us both on screen here. I have got the big homie Fortunato joining. There we go. Got us both on screen now. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Dude, I'm great. I got out to, touch some sand down at the beach today. We got some sunshine coming through the smoke that we've had for the rest of the week. So, yeah, we got down there and got to the beach just in time. We were there for a couple hours, and then the clouds rolled in and it started raining just as we were packing up to get back here. So, things worked out nicely for me today, dude. I'm glad that you could join me. We have been bumping this down the road all week.
Yeah. I'm glad we
Happy.
got it done within the week because it was supposed to be Tuesday then Thursday, but we're doing it now on Sunday. So
Hell
you know
yeah,
what? I
man.
think we're still within in that grace period. So yeah, I'm just
Definitely.
glad to finally connect with you and get on the show and stuff.
Hell yeah, man. I appreciate you coming through, dude. And so what was the release date for the new album, Blue Collar 2? It's been out for a week or two now, right?
it's been out for a week, so it came out last Friday.
Right.
So
Yeah, we're
yeah,
still
what
doing
date?
pretty good talking about it in the first week that it's out then. That's
Yeah,
acceptable
people are
promo
still
times
discovering
for
it.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I actually just got hard copies from Hand Solo Records yesterday,
Nice.
and so I was selling a bunch of those CDs at an event called Beast Mode Battles that I went to last night. So a lot of guys there were picking up CDs, and so it's starting to
Beautiful.
circulate some physical copies,
Nice, man. So
and
you're
the
doing you're
vinyl is
doing
on the way.
CDs?
Yeah,
Okay, but vinyl's on the way.
yeah.
All right. Nice.
Yeah, the CDs are like it's more like a memento. Like it's like people you get the digital download with it,
Yeah.
and so like yeah, I always tell everybody it's like it's the same as buying it on like Apple Music or whatever. Like you get the CD as a bonus, and then you get the link, and then you go or you get it from the Bandcamp or whatever, and it's like yeah, it's still a great quality release audio wise, and like I said, the vinyl's coming in a few weeks, and so people have been waiting on the vinyl. I know there's been some pre-orders that's coming in soon.
I think that's smart having the digital download come along with the CD like that because people still do a lot of the time like to have something in their hand if they're going to be giving away their money. It seems like it's tough to convince people to buy the digital music. I still try to tell people, even if you're just buying a digital single from somebody, that 99 cents can go a long way. Is go do that, but definitely buying
Absolutely.
physicals. That's the best way to support people going out and seeing them at the shows and stuff. So
Yeah,
it's
and if you want like an autograph, you want me to sign it, whatever like that. Like obviously you need something physical for that. So like yeah,
totally.
it's something I could sign and personalize. And some people still have CD players in their cars, and so I know some people like their work vehicle, whatever, chuck it in there or just rip it onto like whatever. But yeah, we got the digital download stuff, but honestly, I didn't think as many people. Most people aren't really playing CDs these days, but we keep them around. They're cheap to make, and yeah, some people still buy them.
Yeah, well, I mean, like you say, that most cars aren't even coming with CD players these days, but it is still good to have something to be able to sell people, whether it's a T-shirt or something physical to have at the events. You said you were out at like a battle rap scene there in
Yeah,
Toronto, was it?
yeah. So like, yeah, in Toronto, that's where I live, and yeah, like so we have a battle league called Beast Mode Battles. We also got like King of the Dot, but it's just started coming back.
Yeah,
But these guys have been going for about a year post COVID. Like they've been around a lot longer than that, but they closed down for COVID for a couple of years, and there was no battles happening. So when it started up again, we were basically just doing battles in someone's, apartment, and then we've been getting in venues and stuff like that now. I'm not really like I'm not a battle. I did battle before, but I don't battle anymore, and I'm just there to support the scene. And it's like, yeah, it's a small group of people that like it's like a small family that we stick together, and yeah, it's a really nice vibe, really wholesome. For battle rap, you'd be surprised, but yeah, there's a lot of respect
Yeah, for
that
sure, man.
people
The
have for each
community
other.
around battle rap is real strong. Supporting each other's releases, all that type of stuff. The community there is, I think, one of the main draws to it. Actually, like obviously everybody likes the rhymes, but I think that atmosphere goes a long way. Is just the kind of welcoming atmosphere that it has, which, yeah, you're right, does seem strange since it's a bunch of people standing around insulting each other, but it's
Exactly.
it's all love
Yeah.
at the end of it from everything I've ever seen out here anyways. um
Yeah.
so you're kind of a guy who's like, you've lived all over the map, right? Like, how long have you been back in Toronto for? I thought
Been
you
here
were.
for close to 7 years, but I'm back and forth. I'm always going back to New Brunswick. I lived in New Brunswick for 3 years, and I've done a lot of touring in Canada. I've been to, I'd say, pretty much most of the cities that you could find on a map I've been to. So like, with the exception of like Northwest Territories and stuff, but
Yeah.
I'm well traveled, and I've met a lot of people through that experience. That's why like a lot of rappers you wouldn't expect to know me, because people say, oh, he's from Toronto. How does he know this guy from like Vancouver Island, or and it's I've got through from doing rap for so long. It's 2006 or 2005, around there is when I finally started like putting out music.
Yeah.
And just over, when you do something for that long, you meet a lot of people, and so yeah, I've just managed to connect with a lot of different heads. But New Brunswick is kind of like my favorite, my home away from home. I go there every summer. I try to spend as much time as I can out there. A lot of my friends that, when I started working on the original Blue Collar EP with Sean One, he was the first producer that I was introduced out there to. And so, and it kind of like signified like my career at that point was kind of like slowing down and stuff. And then I moved to New Brunswick, and I didn't expect to be so busy making hip hop. But yeah, like I did. I started making hip hop out there, and it was like a really refreshing, um, incredible experience to find all these rappers and producers and stuff. So
Yeah, man. It
yeah, it's
seems like the East Coast has a really strong hip hop scene. Like Halifax, especially. I play all sorts of stuff from Halifax, but Sean One's from Fredericton, right?
yeah, yeah. And I was living in Moncton. Well, I was living on a reserve north of Moncton called LC Booktook, and so yeah, I'd drive this. They call it Salmon River Road. It's a real sketchy road, but it's the fastest way from where I was living to Fredericton. And I'd make that drive because Sean One's the type of producer, doesn't do anything remotely. If you want to work on something, he's not going to send it to you. You got to actually go to his house
Oh, damn.
and
Okay.
like sit down and hang out, and then you get to it. So like, yeah, we'd get maybe like one song, maybe two songs done per session. And so it was like, it's a much slower pace than what I'm used to, but I feel like the quality was really good. And I had the song with Sean Price, "Don't Drink the Kool-Aid." It was like probably like biggest song I ever made, and his beat is what really inspired Sean to rap on it. Like
Classic
I heard it,
shit,
and I'm
man.
like, this is a Sean Price beat. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna holler at Sean Price and see if he wants to jump on the beat. And he was like, cool. So yeah, like that's and ever since then I've been coming back there. Like I worked on the album with Lavender and Scrimmage. That's like my last album, Moonwater, and
Yeah.
that's another big like uh East Coast connection for me. When Two Bad Dudes, my other album with Brian with DJ IV, and so the history. There's a lot of history for me there. They say I'm honorary Scotian or honorary New Brunswicker or whatever, but yeah, I really love going out there. I love the people. I love the vibe. I love how friendly everyone is, and yeah, you have the same issues in that hip hop scene where it's like kind of there is a lot of competitiveness within the scene, and like people that want to like see other people fail and whatnot. So that's not it's not all sunshine and lollipops out there, even though it is a little bit more tightly knit. There's still haters wherever you go. So
Yeah,
but
wherever you go,
for
you're
the
gonna
most
find
part,
that.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, for the most part, I think that it's a great group of people out there, and I feel like they really elevated my craft.
Dope, man. You're sounding really good on Blue Collar too. I really enjoyed the content that you put in there. Like, I know the write up that you sent along with it kind of talked about how you were going for kind of a more mature vibe compared to Blue Collar One. So Blue Collar One was what, 2015?
Yes.
Something like that. Okay, so like 8 years later, you're back making another album with Sean One. Were you there in person again recording for this one? He's still the type
Yeah,
of
no,
guy who's only going to work with you in person?
I think if I wasn't living in Toronto, then he would want me to go there. If I was even if I was in like PEI or Nova Scotia, whatever, he'd be like, make the drive and and then we'll work on it. But he knows I'm all the way out of Toronto, so it wasn't possible. So no, he actually, and we've built the trust now too,
Right.
and that's part of the reason why he doesn't
Yeah.
like sending his stuff out. And
Wants to
so
know
yeah,
who
like
he's
I'm
working
like,
with. Yeah, that makes sense.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, like so we just he sent them to me. He sent me like 12 songs. I wrote the 12 songs, all 12 songs. I think except for one, yeah, I think it turned out to be 11 songs, but then we threw in a bonus track. So yeah, like the vinyl has a song with Rusty Jukes that was added after the fact, and then I think
Oh,
there was
damn.
one that didn't make it, but I'm not sure. But
Okay.
yeah, like so yeah, and that's a really cool old school hip hop track. It's like almost something you would imagine like it would be good for breakdancing and stuff. I don't break dance, but I know a lot of breakdancers, and when I heard the beat and the song way it came together, I was like, oh, this is like a breakdancing classic here. So yeah,
Yeah.
and I don't make a lot of like really danceable music like that. Like most of my stuff is more like head nod.
Yeah.
So, but that's a pretty like, yeah, you could like, if you were a skilled break dancer, you could definitely tear up
Nice,
the
man.
dance floor.
Rusty Jux, I'm sure he kills it. That guy is dope on anything you ever hear him on. So I look forward to hearing that. I don't think that was on the digital issue that you sent over, but I'll have to track that one
No,
down for
I
sure.
think that's just going to be on the vinyl. I think that's the plan that
Dope.
Han Solo had for it, was that like, yeah, we want to give people an incentive to like to buy the vinyl and stuff. So
Good
we
idea.
just kept that as a vinyl only track.
Nice, man. So, can you tell me, just kind of in general, like an elevator pitch about the project? Like you said, it was 12 tracks there. This one, you a lot less features on it, like just the one Rusty Jux there. The rest of it's just you holding it down, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's I really, didn't want to be chasing people around for features. It's something that seems to happen a lot, and it just wastes time. And I was like, and then the guy I was working, my not my engineer, he was like, well, if he doesn't like to like copy paste, like kind of like take beats and then have to loop them or whatever. So he's like, every time if I add another artist, we have to extend the beat. Then he needs all new stems, and that's just another problem. So I say, you know what? Let's streamline the whole process. One MC, one producer, one engineer, and that's really,
Nice.
and then we got the my buddy Pascal who did the cover art for it. He is DJ Metaphysic from Dieppe, New Brunswick, and he's my tour DJ, and he also did the artwork for the album. And yeah, it's definitely a more mature feel. Like there's very minimal swearing on it. I think maybe just a couple tracks that has maybe a word or two. But yeah, I
Yeah, and
wanted
it's
it to be
not real
cleaner. I wanted it to
abrasive.
be,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I wanted it to be more wholesome, and I wanted it to be like more inspiring and heartfelt. So that's why I really wanted to kind of connect with my life experience and try and use that to give people like some guidance and inspiration through it. I wanted it to be kind of like a wiser album, like we've been through the years of trash talk where like, I feel like when I was a younger artist was a lot of like, oh, I'm going to do this, and if you do this, then I'll do this, and we do this and this and this, and it's like, so I
Right.
wanted to just like kind of like, actually like, so someone actually messaged me and said like they called it self-help hip hop, which is I think it's a new genre maybe I've discovered or something. But yeah, everyone who's listened to like the video that came out, it's you. I was promoting that, and people were like, man, I really needed to hear that. I really needed to hear those words, and so I was like, I've heard that again and again and again from people who listen to it, and I was like, well, if the music's helping people, if it's really getting people through tough times, then I feel like that's probably the best use of my talents. And so, because I feel like I'm not really interested in like blowing up or having like an incredible amount of popularity. I'm really happy with my life and just making music like this. So I feel like if I can actually help people with their lives and be like a positive, bring some positive energy,
Definitely, man.
help uplift people.
I think you really brought like kind of an energy I really like in hip hop, which is like kind of just OG perspective. Like I've been around, I've seen it. I am now looking at other people doing it, and I've got some tips for some of them. You know what I mean? Like that's what I got from listening to it, and I think you know, you get that from guys who've been doing hip hop for a while. You get that from, you know, the Scarfaces of the world, and some of the elder statesmen of hip hop get to rap from that perspective. And I think you know, this is you kind of having that perspective as a Canadian, you know, somebody who's been out here on the Canadian scene for a long time. Like you said, you're known across the country.
Yeah.
People have worked with you across the country, and now it's, yeah, kind of time for you to look back and be able to drop some jewels for the people. That was the impression that I got
Yeah,
from this.
I like making bangers like as much as the next person, but yeah, I felt like, and there's definitely a few of those on the album,
Sure.
but yeah, most of it it's really like heartfelt, like trying to be uplifting and trying to like share my experiences, and yeah, that's what it's really boils down to. It's very it's not just introspective. It's kind of like, you know, I want to tell. I realized what people are going through, and I was like, well, you know, when I was going through that, this is how I dealt with it, and be careful with these pitfalls and whatnot. So yeah, it's a lot of life advice and stuff like that.
Nice, man. So listening through it, like on the first track, you mentioned like, you know, I'm the 50-year-old rapper who, I forget the bar, but you mentioned being 50
Yeah,
years old. And then the
yeah.
track after that, I noticed you're talking about how like 12 years ago I started rapping. And I thought to myself, like, did this dude start rapping at age 38? Is that the
Yeah,
story?
about I'm really yeah, I was definitely a late bloomer when it came to hip hop. And you know, obviously when it comes down to the years exactly, it could have been a year more, a year less, this
Yeah,
and that.
sure.
But that's generally what it was. Yeah. So like I'm 47, but I like to call myself 50 because you know, I'm just like, you know, it's a
Sure.
nice even number, and people are like, oh man. And so many people are just like, man, that guy's like 50 years old. I'm like, okay, yeah, I am. But yeah, I'm 47, and I did start like actually like I wrote rhymes a lot in high school and stuff like that, but I didn't put out any albums
Right.
until like 2006, 2007. That's like when the first Angerville albums were dropped. So that's when I finally started to like conceptualize my rhymes and like try to like put together projects and albums and stuff like that. So yeah, it's and yeah, that's what I say, the 50-year-old rapper. And as I like it, when I'm talking about meeting Sean One, you know, 12 years ago when I first started flowing,
Yeah.
5 years later until I moved to the ocean, like, and then so that's when I made the move to New Brunswick, and then a year later I met Sean One, and then we did a song, we did an album 8 years ago, and we're still not done. So like that's
Dope.
basically, yeah, we it came full circle, and we're both older guys, a lot of experience. You know, he's definitely one of the hip hop staples in New Brunswick, one of the originators, you know, one of the trailblazers for people there. A lot of the young artists who've come out of New Brunswick have worked in his studio. Um, and
So can I
yeah,
ask, man,
Monarch.
like,
Yeah.
was it situational that you decided to jump into the ring and actually start releasing music? Like, was it just that you landed in a place around people who, you know, were recording and releasing hip hop themselves, and so you kind of decided to throw your hat in the ring, or just
Well,
what lit the fire under your ass at that stage in life? Like, I don't think a lot of people are picking up the mic in their, you know, mid to
yeah.
late
Well,
30s or
what
whatever.
happened? We were kind of like just a group of dudes who just got together on the weekend and drank beer and rapped and stuff on random beats. But there was one kid in our crew that was like taking it super serious. His name was Ilda Shiesty, and yeah, he was murdered like before he was supposed to get his big break. He was gonna like do a song with Mobb Deep and shit, and then they found his body in a cul-de-sac, like he was shot and stabbed,
Damn.
and so a lot of us were like, okay, we had a pretty good idea of who did it, so we're like, let's it's revenge time, this and that, and so we started talking about it, and we're like, okay, well, there's another option. How about we continue what he started, like continue his legacy, do what he really wanted to do was be a rap star, you know? So we started the group Angerville, and it was basically the motivation was just to like try to complete, you know, what Ilda Shiesty had started. And even though that group, you know, I think Angerville, we had some great hits, but then, you know, I started to have more confidence in myself as a solo artist. And I really wanted to find my own voice. So yeah, about I'm not sure. I'd say around 2013, I finally just went completely solo, just as Fortunato,
Nice.
and yeah, and so that's really the that was really what kickstarted everything. You know, it took a pretty traumatizing event to like really make me want to throw my hat in the ring, and I just kept building on it and building on it. And I was like, well, there's no turning back now. So I'm just keep on doing it. And people keep asking me, "Is this your last album?" I'm like, "No, I got another one at the end in October. I got the Dirty Sample album coming out on hand solo.
Oh, dope.
So yeah, that'll be later this year
Looking
to
forward
round
to
the year
that.
off, and
Yeah.
then yeah, it's a definitely different than the Blue Collar 2 album. It's a lot more grimy. I mean, anyone who's familiar with Dirty Sample,
Yeah.
Old Gorilla Bones, like yeah, it's a nasty album, but I like it. Like so, it's nice to have albums where I can be like the really like
A little bit more
responsible,
heavy
pure,
hitting
like
with,
yeah, and then
yeah.
I can just go and do an album like that. It was just like yeah, it's like let's get dirty. So
Hell yeah,
yeah,
nice. I appreciate the kind of like breadth of subject content that you put into your music, man. Like you mentioned COVID on the album. That's something that a lot of these rappers aren't trying to even have out their mouth, because it's such a polarizing topic.
yeah,
You talk about politics, like even on, I follow you on Twitter and stuff, and I've seen you talk about like, what's this politician gonna do to our bike lanes, what's this
yeah,
politician gonna do to our communities, these types of things. And I think like a lot of artists will like shy away from a lot of that type of talk, whether it's in their songs or on social media, just in public at all, because it is so polarizing and they don't want to scare fans away, I guess.
yeah.
Obviously you're not too worried about that. Where do you
Not at
stand on
all.
that?
No,
Yeah.
I, I've always been outspoken, and I wear my heart on my sleeve. I won't tuck my. I don't know if we're allowed to swear on the
Oh
show,
yeah, yeah,
but
go ahead, go ahead. Yeah.
I don't tuck my shit for anybody. I don't care if you don't want to buy my album or you want to fucking boycott me, whatever. Like, go for it. I've always spoke exactly how I felt, what was on my mind, and so yeah, like I've gone on my Facebook page and been like, yeah, if you're transphobic or homophobic, don't buy my albums. And
Yeah.
I'm like, it doesn't get any clearer than that. And I still have a lot of people buying my albums, so I'm like, I guess whatever. But I always want to make it known. Like I'm like, I don't. People think that because they're giving you money that all of a sudden you have to like kind of bend to their will, and it's like, no, dude. Like this music is going to be the same whether you buy it or not. I'm going to be the same no matter whether you buy it or not. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I think that's called integrity, right?
Yeah, it's supposed to be, but like I mean, people want to hit. They want to hit so bad, and it's like they're willing to change everything, change their personality, change the way they dress, change the way they view the world. They was like and I'm like, well, once it gets to that point, I feel like the artistry is kind of lost because you're just going wherever the wind blows
Hell
and
yeah.
hoping that it sticks, like and like what's the end game here, and it's like I don't know. So yeah,
Yeah.
I just everybody's got their own way of like navigating this business or whatever, this culture, and it's like this has always been my way. It's served me well throughout the years, and I just stick to my guns.
Yeah, man. Speaking of navigating obstacles, like I know the pandemic was real tough for a lot of different artists with, venues shutting down and shows kind of closing down and just everything being up in the air and uncertain. I noticed, like I said, that you mentioned COVID and like you're giving shout outs to the, frontline workers who deserve more respect and these kind of things.
Yeah.
How was pandemic for you? Like, how was the entire experience as an artist, as just a person?
It wasn't great as an artist. As a person, it wasn't too bad because it forced me to like really focus on my health, and I had put my physical, health on a back burner for music for years and years and years, just punishing myself through tours and studio sessions, and like yeah, and I just didn't really make much time for myself. So during the pandemic, I finally got in shape and got healthier, and so I think it's definitely increased my longevity. But the lockdown was very long in Toronto. We had, I think, one of the second longest lockdowns for a city in the world. And so people were like moving away from Toronto. They're like, wow, we pay all this rent and we can't do anything except for like go to the corner store. Like I said, people at on a Saturday night in Toronto where usually like clubs would be popping and people would be out doing whatever, like on the patios. And it's like, we're all just lined up at the corner store for like chips and pop and shit like that. Like, and so, yeah, it was weird to see like my city like just so shut down, and we're
Yeah.
still kind of recovering here as far as like there's a budget shortfall, and city services are definitely lacking, but yeah, I'd say, I'm just happy that my family stayed healthy through it. My mom, she's quite old, and my dad's pretty old too. So I was worried about them a lot during it,
Yeah.
and yeah, everybody managed to survive. So
Right on, man. Yeah.
I
Well, and
and
you
I'm
put
still
an
back
album out
making.
during it, right? Like you Moonwater with Lavender,
Yeah.
that was 2021, so during pandemic. Was that something you guys worked on prior to pandemic, or was that during
Yes,
kind of
yes, that was
everything
a
being
really
shut down?
long process. Yeah,
Okay.
that was a
Let's
really
talk
long
about that too,
process.
man, if you don't
Yeah,
mind.
yeah, no worries. Like,
How was working with Lavender?
that was great. Like, Lavender's amazing. She's definitely, like, I think that she when it came to that album was a lot of features that, like, it was a lot of verses that she did, and we got a couple hooks too. But I feel like she was looking for a more immersive experience. She wanted, like, to do a whole album. But for what it was, Moonwater was almost like, she was on this super long road trip with her parents, and she was stuck in the back of this van, and she was just like, send me beats. And I had all these beats from this guy named Gam Shooter. He's the first guy who ever sent me beats back in the first album I ever made. And he came out of nowhere and was like, "Hey, you want to work?" And I'm like, "Sure." And he sent me these beats, and then I sat on them for ages. I wrote to them, but I didn't. I had no. They weren't finished. They were just like pieces and stuff. So then she hit me up and she's like, "Oh yeah, I'll drop a verse on this. I'll drop a verse on that." So she basically finished all of those songs for me, and then I got my buddy Scrimmage, who's like, he was going through some stuff at the time too, and I was like, man, I wasn't sure how much longer he was going to be around, so really wanted him to get on the album just in case. So at least I would have something that I could listen to, or something that I could, to
Yeah.
keep him close, or to remind me of him, because I didn't think he was going to be around much longer. And thankfully, his life has turned around great. Lavender's doing awesome, and yeah, that's
Good
it
to
was
hear, man.
nice. I thought the vinyls like was one of the best looking vinyls we put out. The artwork is phenomenal, and yeah, the content is pretty dark, and, like, it's got a lot of that. It's moody. It's got a lot of that. Lavender talks a lot about the witchcraft and stuff like that, and yeah, it's a kind of a nice mosaic. It's a lot of different moving parts, but yeah,
So
it took 4 years, I'd say.
as compared to the new Sean One project there, like it must have been a lot less heavy lifting as, an MC who's only got to do half the verses for that. So I'm surprised to hear that it took so much longer than this new Blue Collar 2 album did.
Yeah, yeah, I
When
just was in the zone with the new Blue Collar, man. I just started writing. I was on the res, and it was quiet. I think it was Thanksgiving weekend, and I just tore through those beats. But I love I love Sean One's beats. I feel like they're made for me, and I
Yeah.
think that's why the writing process was a little faster.
Yeah, they were dope, man. Really soulful boom bap stuff. As I was listening to it, actually, I thought to myself, this dude's production style reminds me a lot of DK, the producer, who's a Halifax guy.
Yeah,
Put an album out with Ghetto Socks last year, but always making dope stuff. But then, actually, a couple days after that, when I had been advertising that I was going to talk to you, DK messaged over and said, "Yeah, Sean One is the New Brunswick goat." Best producer of all time out there, or whatever. So
I mean, you
definitely
got to
was
give the
given
guy his
props.
you got to give him his respect, man, because he's been around for so long, and he's another guy that won't change for anybody. He's just like, really, he knows what he does, and he's good at it. And yeah, I love his beats, man. They're just so full, and like just got that classic sound.
Nice, man. So, album called Blue Collar 2. Obviously, you're referencing jobs you've done over the years. I know at one point you're talking about like roofing, I think, on there, or packing groceries
Yep,
maybe, or something. But I
yep.
just wanted to kind of ask, like, can we talk about like the the balance an artist has to walk between finding time to make music and still keeping the bills paid and still
Yeah,
having the rest of his life in order or whatever. How do you manage that, because you stay busy, man? You're always working.
yeah. Well, you know what? I've been a dad since I was 18. So, like, I started super young, and so every my whole life I've been trying to juggle having kids at a young age, and then trying to, like, make enough money to support them. And being teenage parents, it wasn't easy, but so you find ways. And when I was recording at my house and stuff, when I first started making music, like, my kids would be running around and stuff, and so I'd be like, okay, we got to keep it clean. My kids are down here, whatever. And it's like, yeah, so it's a lot. It's been a balancing act my whole life. And I just, if I had to give any, advice to people, I'd say try and find a partner that's supportive, uh, that really believes in your music, believes in you, in what you're doing, because that will definitely make it easier. Because then you can like kind of lean a bit
Hell
on
yeah.
them, and vice versa. And so yeah, but you got. I always say to everybody, because I've had a lot of friends who were like their partners didn't support what they did, and they were always mad and like, oh, you're recording again, this and that. And yeah,
Yeah.
that in that kind of a scenario, it's pretty much impossible. So you find someone who's understanding, and yeah, time management is your friend. Like I'm trying to get back into it, but like yeah, again, I'm pretty rusty post pandemic. I've done one tour since then, but I'm like, yeah, I don't feel like I have the level of logistical. Like I used to be really crazy about it, and I just think it's kind of like it's a bit of like you just get tired after doing it for so long, and then it's like you grind for so long, and you're just like, man, it's like I get a bit burnt out. I guess I'm still a bit burnt out, but I'm still
Word.
pushing my music and stuff like that, and just trying to like stay on top of everything.
Man, can I ask, like, has there ever been a time when music has been the job, or have you always had to
There
dual?
was like pre-pandemic. I was still making enough that I could survive, and I
Dope.
had a little part-time job, but I didn't have to do like I didn't have to commit full time because I wanted part-time so that I could like have the flexibility to like go and do stuff if I wanted to, and I was still getting enough opportunities. But then COVID really put an end to that, and I've been scrounging around trying to like keep things going. And so I found ways. I'm a resourceful person. I found ways to like to still be able to make music and not like and not break the bank doing it and
Hell
still
yeah.
be able to like live a decent life. So
Beautiful,
yeah, I
man.
feel like that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the dream, honestly. I think just that there was a time when you were able to rely on music goes a long way to show, the stature that you have in Canadian hip hop. Because a lot of guys, that's the dream right there, to be able to pay the light bill off of being out doing shows, doing music. That's as good as it gets for a lot of independent artists, really. So hopefully, as things open back up or whatever, man, I'm wishing you all the best that can go back to being the situation or whatever. um
Yeah, man, I appreciate it.
Hell yeah, man. Dude, I wish that for all the artists out there. Fuck, none of us should be busting our ass in the sun so that we can afford to go record music, man. But it seems like a lot
Yeah,
of us are.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Something I've been asking everybody that I really like the responses to, so I just like to leave it open ended, is do you get more fulfillment from being on stage or from being in studio making the songs?
Definitely on stage, and that's
Yep,
why the pandemic was because there are artists that are more digital, like that they're like mostly like internet based or whatever, like they're out following online. They're very close like that. My connection with my fans has always been the best connections I've ever made has been in person, and I feel like my age probably has something to do with that. Like I'm old school. I like that
sure.
real like connection, being close with other people, and it's yeah, so I definitely stage all the way, man.
See,
I can't wait. I'm doing a show in Niagara Falls on Friday, for another battle league called Bars of Death, and
dope.
yeah, like it's I'm really excited to be back on stage. I don't get as many chances to do it, so every time I get to do it, it's extra special, and I try to give it like, and yeah, I got a big surprise too. I'll if I get any footage, I'll send it to you because yeah, we're definitely doing something that's never been done before, and
Just this
it's
Friday at the next show coming up?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Actually, Saturday. My bad. Saturday in Niagara Falls. The show coming up. It's going to be for
Dope.
the Bars of Death Battle League, and yeah, I'm doing a short set, but I've got a little surprise for everybody. So yeah, I think for people who know me, especially though, the only clue I'll say is people who know me are really going to get a kick out of it. Like people who know me personally, and not even personally. If you ever been to my shows and stuff, like yeah, there's going to be something that happens and people are just going to be like, oh shit. So yeah.
Nice, man. I asked the internet for if anybody had questions for you, and the homie Azriel Rapsgood out from the West Coast asked, "When are you coming out west?" So that kind of rolls into like, do you have plans for a tour? Are you guys going to be able to do any shows abroad for Blue Collar 2?
Oh man, abroad I'm not sure, but I got the East Coast tour going on in August. So August 11th we start in Sydney, out in Cape Breton, and then we go to PEI on the 12th, and then Fredericton, and then St. John, and then we'll be at Halifax, and then Moncton, or Moncton, yeah, Halifax and then Moncton. So yeah, I got about 6 shows set up for the East Coast and at the near the end of the summer, and if I can line up anything more, like any other Ontario dates or shit, I mean, even getting out west would be fantastic. But like I just it's we got to make it work, and I'm like always looking for artists out west if they want to come out east, or we can vice versa. I know
Hell
it's a
yeah.
big country. It's a lot of miles, a lot of kilometers to cover. But yeah, if there's ever I love Vancouver. My mom's actually was born in Burnaby, so I've been out there quite a few times. I love it there, and any excuse for me to go out there and see the mountains, I'll take it.
Nice, man. And like you just said, I think like building that network of artists across the country really does go a long way, so that when you do need to go do a show in a different city, you can have people open who make sense, who you actually have some sort of relationship with, and the music that they make is going to fit with the music you're making and stuff. So
Absolutely.
that's another thing. Like in the intro, I kind of mentioned that I'm trying to build that network and just, get more people on more people's spotlights. So definitely, it's good to hear you say that, like, if there are artists out there, let me know. We can make this happen, because that's the
For
exact.
sure, we can make it happen, man. I'm down to work with. I like Azriel. We're on the same label now, and yeah, like we work with Dirty Sample, and like so, yeah. There's connections there. It's just a matter of making it work so that we all we can have some good shows, and I would love to come out there. But yeah,
Yeah, man.
anytime, man.
For
Hit me
the
up.
for the Dirty Sample album, did you get to actually link up in person? Like, I feel like you were out here in Calgary for a while, weren't you?
I was for a bit, yeah, but no, we didn't get to
Okay.
um to do anything in person. It was all remote as well, and that was a lot of that was done during the pandemic.
Nice,
And
man.
yeah, it's I'm just glad to see it come out again. It was another album that it was kind of very slow, but that those were the times. Now I think things are picking up again, but yeah, it was a
So
slow process, but I'm glad it's done.
for these albums where you've been recording, separate of the producers, have you been home recording? Like, do you record yourself, or are you going into a studio someplace, or what's the process been like there?
Yeah, I go to my buddy Notion studio. So
Nice.
like Notion, he's done a lot of work for artists around here. He's an Australian dude. I met him at like Canadian Music Week a long time ago, at, like the Royal York Hotel in Toronto, and
Movement
we've kind of
fam,
like
right?
been
Yeah.
yeah, movement fam, exactly. So him and his bro, like I've known him forever, and I just I was switching studios, and I was like, I actually met him at a bar, and because he does like the beer podcast and stuff,
Right.
and I was like, hey man, I haven't seen. He's like, I'm like, where are you living? It turned out to be pretty close to me, and so I've been going over there recording. I've been recording there for about 3 years now, and he's just great to work with. He always lets me know when it's not quite there, and I trust his judgment. He's got a great ear, so yeah. Shout outs to Notion.
Dope, man. Can I ask how you feel about social media? I like artists' answers on this one, because some of them are, yeah, some of them just like
Twitter's
will
not,
do it grudgingly, but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Twitter. I mean, I've always been good with social media, but not as good these days. I feel like I kind of like lost touch with. I let it go for a while just for my own reasons. I didn't feel like I wanted to be on it all the time anymore, promoting and stuff like that. So I took a break from it, and the way that these applications kind of punish you for not being on them, like all of the time.
Right.
It's kind of like, okay, now you lose your engagement, you lose your reach, and so there's that's basically what happened with my social media. I've had way more reach and more traction back in the day. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, as far as the independent platforms, like Instagram, I feel like it used to be a really effective platform. Now doesn't really do much for me musically, and Twitter, I just find people are very angry there, and I kind of like to go on there and get angry at politicians and stuff too. But some
Yeah.
days you're just like, man, like how can you be angry every day about everything? I'm like, I need a break from it sometimes. So
Yeah.
that's the only thing about Twitter. Facebook's become kind of benign now. Like it's like, I think they've done a good job of like rooting out all of the crazy political stuff that used to dominate it, and now it's like kind of like people taking pictures of their dogs again and stuff like that. Which I think it's as long as it stays like that, it's a good spot.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Facebook's good for
I
catching
think
up
as an
with the
artist,
family, but beyond that, yeah.
yeah, I think as an artist, you have to use it to a certain extent. But I mean, a lot of people invest a lot of money into that, and I don't think I would ever put money into it. I know people do that for their videos. They do that for like, uh, promoted posts and stuff like that. And I mean, if you've got a brand that you're really trying to push, but as far as me, as my, how I treat social media, I'm like, I'll just go with the free version
Yeah,
for
man.
now.
Well, I will tell people definitely, like Fortunato is one of the few people who are part of Canadian hip hop that I see tweeting on any sort of regular basis. Most people's Twitter accounts are like dead unless they've got a new song that dropped that day, and then you might get the like promo tweet about that new song or whatever. So,
Right.
as a fellow Twitter aficionado who's over there sometimes being angry about politics, if that sounds fun to you, you should definitely make sure you're following Fortunato over there because yeah, one of the few who actually will have a voice in a way that
Yeah.
isn't. Yeah.
I am Fortunato. Follow me on Twitter. And you know what? Like they didn't have water fountains working in Toronto for like years, and then we just dragged them for like a year straight on Twitter. And
Yeah.
now the water fountains have been. They said this is the earliest they've ever been on, and the reason is because we were on there making them look bad because they weren't doing anything, and so they did something. And sometimes if that's the effective way of, if that's the only way that you can actually get in touch with politicians and affect change in your community, then
Man,
that's what
that
you got to
that
do.
makes a big difference for like unhoused people or whatever trying to put up. I don't know how hot it is out there, but I know we've been getting a heat wave most other
Yeah.
areas of the world. So yeah, I'm sure people need all the access to drinking water that they can get out there, just like everywhere else.
Absolutely, yeah. It was ridiculous, but yeah, that's why. Yeah, follow me on there if you want to see me get angry at like lazy politicians.
Hell yeah, man. Another thing I like to ask people who are, nice with the pen. Do you got any tips for youth coming up who are just starting out with writing raps?
Yeah, I'd say you know what, like my writing process, I start with just like the first line, something that pops into my head, and then I just build off of that. There's not really much of a concept in mind, and then I just start writing from the first line, and then I add another line, and then I start to see kind of a theme or something form from it, and then I'll usually like once I've got a verse done, then I'll take a break and revisit the song maybe later in the day or the next day, and I'll do my second verse, and then I'll kind of like just listen to the beat and listen to the song and then try and come up with a hook. And like so that's my process. And but
That's
everybody's different. And
that's
I'd say
really well
don't
said, man. A lot of guys want to sit down and like, they'll like try to write a song about something right off the bat and come up with the topic and then try to write about that. And I've always been
yeah,
closer, like I'm a lyricist too, and I've always been closer to what you just said, where I'm going to start writing and let what it's about kind of form itself as I'm
yeah,
yeah, as I'm putting pen to paper for sure.
absolutely. And another thing I would say is don't throw away your raps. I know when I was young, I'd get frustrated and I'd just throw it in the garbage. And I think there's always something salvageable from everything, even if it's not your favorite rap. You might find some inspiration at a later date. So don't crunch it up or delete whatever. Like I don't know, people still have rhyme books or whatever, but
Yeah.
yeah, like don't delete those files. Don't tear those pages out of your book. Like save them, put them away, and one day you'll be thinking of what you want to write, and maybe you got some writer's block, and you go back and look at all that old stuff you did, and you might be like, oh man, this is garbage.
Yeah.
But then you'll be like, oh, but this part's that's pretty dope. I can't believe I wrote that.
It's
You probably
always
totally
something you can
forgot that you
grab
wrote
from
it.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah, it might even just be some
for
line that
sure.
you can use in a hook or whatever else, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. But yo,
and
I got a jet pretty
you got a
soon,
jet.
bro. So I just
All right, man. Let
yeah,
me
yeah.
ask you. Let me ask you one more question here. Can I ask you? It's
Okay,
kind of just two-part question. I ask everybody this, but we can end it with this. Can you describe
okay.
the Toronto hip hop scene, and can you put us on to one or two artists maybe who you're around who you think deserve more shine than they get?
Sure. Yeah, I'd say Roshan is a great. He's from a group called Notes. I think it was Notes to Self or Notes. Yeah, I think it's Notes to Self. So yeah, Roshan he's a great rapper from here, and Run and Gun. They're also a duo from Mississauga. They're fantastic as well. Junior T actually just put out an amazing album a year ago, and he's an incredible producer. He doesn't rap as much anymore, but he's fantastic.
Dope.
And yeah, so those three guys. And if I had to describe the scene, I'd say one word: disjointed. So yeah, very
Fair enough.
Everyone's in their own gang group, clique, whatever you want to call it, and
Yeah.
they it's very hard to get people to work with each other, because I feel like everybody feels like they got the secret recipe, and they're worried that if they let outsiders in, that it's going to get stolen or something. So yeah, people are very defensive, very disjointed,
Hell yeah,
and
man.
but that's it.
I think that's across the board, man. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come let us get a sneak peek at kind of some of your secret recipe and how you do things, man. It's always nice
No
talking to
doubt.
artists, and people should definitely check out your new album with Sean One, Blue Collar 2. You can find that, I'm going to guess, Han Solo Bandcamp, right?
Yeah, yeah. Han Solo Band Camp. That's
So, okay.
check it out, man.
Yeah, go
Appreciate all the
over.
support.
Yeah, hell yeah. Thanks for coming through, man. I appreciate you a lot.
No doubt, Doobyis. Thanks for having me.
Peace.
Fly Formations, Fortunato.
Hell yeah.
Peace.
Appreciate you, man. Peace. All right. So that was that. I had fun talking to Fortunato. I hope that people weren't looking at him too crazy there on the street. I noticed people started walking past as it was getting darker. I hope he makes it home safe and everything is good tonight. But I'm sure he will. Thanks everybody for coming through once again. If you haven't checked it out before, After the Smoke is Clear is the name of my mix show. I play independent hip hop every week. Mixcloud.com/Doobyis, and Doobyis.com is the hub. DOOBYIS.com. Thanks for coming through, and go get Blue Collar 2, everybody.